What is up, guys? Welcome back to the review space, and this is going to be a current news discussion. Matter of fact, this is going to be about anime news, and this is regarding Dragonball GT is going to be set to air on Nicktoons beginning January 16th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Dragonball GT was the final television series in the Dragon Ball franchise. Now, beginning with Dragon Ball and then Dragon Ball Z, and then GT was the continuation of that. GT was an anime strictly for, it was made as a cartoon. It was not adapted from a manga. Akira Toriyama actually ended Dragon Ball with Dragon Ball Z. The last time that this show was aired in America was 2003 all the way to 2005 on Cartoon Network. I remember watching this on YTV. It was late 2003-ish, and then I remember watching it like on YTV, and I just never really got into this show. You know, I remember watching the first maybe several episodes, and I just never got into it. I didn't like it. It just didn't feel right. You know, something about it just didn't click for me. I didn't enjoy it as much as Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z at all. I think it was because of the storyline, the way that they had this new arc where it felt more like a Dragon Ball type, Goku becoming small again, and then having these adventures with Trunks and Pan, and it was just, I felt it was too lame, you know. It just didn't come across as a very good anime. I just didn't feel like they were kind of rehashing similar themes seen in Dragon Ball. And then later on, you would see these, different forms of Goku. Eventually, he would become an adult form again, and, Vegeta and this, SSJ4 and all these other new characters and new villains. Now, the thing, too, was that this is supposed to follow Dragon Ball Kai, or Dragon Ball Z Kai. The last DBZ Kai episode actually aired in Japan, which was, it aired in late March of 2011, this year in Japan. And it was the final episode of the Cell Saga. So, the thing is, they're not going to have a Majin Buu saga. They're not going to include that. And the Cell Saga is still airing in American audience, for the American audience. The U.S. airing, the final Cell episode should be, it should air on January 1st, 2012. So just right at the beginning of next year. And then obviously what's going to follow is the Dragon Ball GT episodes. They're skipping the Majin Buu saga. This would be the saga that includes everything to do with the Majin Buu, the baby Buu, or whatever, the kid Buu, all that stuff. So, I mean, even the moments where Gohan turns into a teenager and he meets Videl and they have, they eventually fall for each other and all that stuff. I mean, that's going to be gone. The whole Oob thing, Goku discovering Oob and all that stuff is going to be skipped, apparently. And there was even an episode, because the thing with Dragon Ball Kai was that it was basically an abridged version of the original series, the original anime of Dragon Ball Z. They cut out a lot of filler stuff. They cut out, even some violence were edited, new voice dub, and so there's a positive and negative in everything, and there's definitely some positives, but some negatives as well. Positives is that it looks like it's higher quality, the actual the picture quality. It's in wider screen, or it seems like it's in HD quality. The problem here is that they took out some of the filler stuff, which, I mean, I understand that people don't like filler. Not everybody's a fan of filler and just like episodes that don't have much meaning and are kind of forgettable episodes. But honestly, I don't know, some filler is good, some filler is bad, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, I remember liking the Garlic Jr. Saga, which was kind of an underrated, forgotten saga. I remember that was like when Piccolo and Krillin and Gohan had their own little adventure against Garlic Jr. This was when Goku was away, and this was like this was between, when was this? Because Gohan was still young. Man, I think this was right before the Cell Saga, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Yes, they're not gonna, in Dragon Ball Kai, episode 98, which was the final episode, really. It was technically supposed to be the final episode of Dragon Ball Kai. It didn't air in Japan. It didn't air on TV. because of the whole tsunami thing. And so it was included on DVD and Blu-ray, so it was included as a final bonus episode. This was the episode when future Trunks, Mirai Trunks, he returns home, back to his future home, and then he destroys the androids and eventually Imperfect Cell. So in that entire episode, that was probably the most, important aspect of that episode. That's not going to be included in the actual airing on TV, but it's included in the Blu-ray releases. But regarding GT, yes, should start. It also says here it hasn't been aired in the United States since Toonami 2005. I mean, that was so long ago too. I mean, I was still in high school. I was like, oh man, this was way back in grade 11. I remember watching again GT back in 2003, early 2004. I never really got into it. I never thought it was amazing. Maybe if I spent more time with it, maybe if I had invested more time, but it never captivated me. I was never engaged in the story. I was never emotionally invested in it, compared to the original Dragon Ball series and Dragon Ball Z, obviously, which is the best overall in my opinion. Actually, let's talk about Dragon Ball Z for a second. Now, it's funny that they're not going to air Majin Buu Saga, and I can completely understand why. If they were to air any Majin Buu stuff, honestly, it wouldn't be that. I never liked the Majin Buu Saga, you guys. I mean, I always thought it kind of sucked compared to the rest. The Saiyan Saga, when Vegeta and Nappa was coming, I thought that was a pretty good introduction. It gave a good backstory to Goku, and his Saiyan race and all that stuff. And then I thought Frieza was the best. The Frieza Saga was the best because it had a lot of history. It had a lot of backstory and build-up. And Frieza was this hugely built-up character, this villain, and he was like the ultimate heel. And then we go to the Cell games, the Cell Saga, which in my opinion just wasn't as good. This was the part when Dragon Ball was really starting to get really gimmicky. They were really starting to focus on gimmick storylines and arcs that it wasn't really about substance. It was more about having the next big, strong, powerful super villain of the month kind of thing, the flavor of the month, the flavor villain of the month. And it just felt like the villains kept getting stronger, but the backstory was just getting more convoluted, and it was just getting more and more, it was getting less creative, it just wasn't as captivating. I mean, you have Cell, who's like this combination of all these powerful characters, he's a combination of Goku and Vegeta and King Cold and Frieza and Piccolo and all these powerful guys, but it's like it's almost like, yeah, okay, he's a combination type of character, he's a mixture of all these, so he's a really powerful character, but he eventually got destroyed, and he was just one of these guys who was the filler villain of the day. I mean, he never felt like he was an important enough villain for me. He never really captivated me. He had a great look, he looked great, and he was kind of interesting, like his personality was a mix of all those fighters, but you can tell that, Toriyama was kind of reaching for some ideas here, and, he was kind of running low on some really fresh, interesting stuff, because after the Frieza ended, the Frieza Saga was done, it was like, man, that was it, Goku turned Super Saiyan, and it was like, man, that was it. I mean, the only interesting thing that I really liked about the Cell Saga was Vegeta turning Super Saiyan. I mean, that was it. That was like the most dramatic thing. I was like, whoa, that was sweet. And Trunks, Trunks coming in and looking like this cool, really rad-looking, young-looking, rebellious-looking guy from the future, and he's a Super Saiyan. Like, wow, this guy's a fresh, new character. But as far as charisma, as far as personality, he was kind of boring. He wasn't as interesting, intriguing as Vegeta. I do like the fact that he does get things done. He is a guy who will defeat his opponent in a single episode. That, everybody has said that, and I completely agree. Probably one of the more reliable Saiyans, But, what else? As far as the Majin Buu, yes, the Majin Buu Saga, they're skipping it. Again, I never liked it. I was never a fan of it. The only thing I liked was Majin Buu himself, the fat Majin Buu. he was really cute, and he had this really adorable way about him. He was really kind of a very charismatic, little, almost like an innocent, happy-go-lucky, lovable, lovable big fat character, It's kind of like a Pokemon. It was like every time he kept transforming, he would always have a new form, and I never liked it. I never got into it. It was like another form, another little evolution. Like, who cares? He turns skinny, and then he turns young, and he's a Kid Buu, and then he gets stronger every form, and he's eating up, turning people into candy, and then eating them and consuming their energy, and I was just like, what is this? This is just, this is garbage, this is nonsense, man. I mean, what kind of lame story arc is this, where you have to have such a gimmicky character? And he looks horrible, man. He looks like crud, okay? This guy looks like a silly putty mixed with flesh, it's like a pink, light flesh-colored silly putty. It's ridiculous, okay? This is supposed to be your bad guy? This guy's supposed to be your supervillain? Just horrible, okay? Just full of gimmicks. And then you know that they jumped the shark when two Saiyans have to fuse together in order to become a brand new character, Vegito, okay? Vegito, super powerful guy, but even he couldn't defeat freaking Buu, so what's the use in that? He's supposed to be stronger, but he gets, he ends up ultimately losing to Buu. I just don't buy it. I'm not buying it. I don't think so, okay? You're not gonna shove this down my throat, and I'm not gonna buy into it, okay? We all know it's a gimmick. Everybody who's old enough to realize how much of a gimmick and how much of a lame, corny, terrible bad guy Buu is, Kid Buu, is obviously not gonna like this as much. Obviously, Majin Buu Saga stinks. It's horrible. In my opinion, Majin Buu Saga is the worst saga in Dragon Ball Z and probably all of Dragon Ball history. To me, the whole saga was almost completely filler. I mean, and then when he finally got reincarnated into Oob, and Goku wanted to train Oob, and Oob was supposed to, this reincarnated version of Majin Buu, supposed to be really strong, but it was just like, man, this is garbage. Like, I don't know, you guys. I was kind of I was glad that they finally ended it there, but then along comes, GT, Dragon Ball GT, and it was even more, even more gimmicky, even more outrageous, and it was just full of really lame ideas. And you can tell that these guys are just not as good, as creative as Akira Toriyama once was. Like, you can tell that these guys didn't have the vision that Akira Toriyama had to make a really good, like, amazing Dragon Ball story, kind of storytelling. It lacked the charismatic characters. It lacked, it lacked a vision. There was a problem with it. It lacked a finality, a closure. And I know that Dragon Ball is one of those animes where, you gotta have closure, but, sometimes maybe it feels like it drags on a little bit. There's some filler episodes. Some episodes stretch out a little too long. And now we're gonna have this GT, Dragon Ball GT is gonna be aired, and I mean, I can only imagine it might be an abridged version. It could be. It could be a much shortened version of GT, which may improve the product. It may improve it. It may make the episode seem more interesting. If they cut out some filler like, here's my thing. Get rid of this garbage storyline with Goku going to other planets. Kid Goku and his buddy Trunks, which is the lame version of Trunks. It's not future Trunks. Don't lie to me. Don't freaking lie to me. This is garbage current Trunks, okay? The future Trunks, Mirai Trunks, was amazing. This dimension's version of Trunks is horrible. He's a complete lame. He wears a scarf around his outfit, his mannerisms. He just doesn't have the charisma the future Trunks has. And then you got Pan, who's basically a female version of Goku, and it's trash to me. It's trash. It's a caper filler saga, in my opinion, because there's nothing important about it. It doesn't feel important. It doesn't feel like a big deal. It feels like they're going in these different freaking planets, having little adventures, and Goku's a kid again, and they're trying to relive the glory days of Dragon Ball. So, in my opinion, if you want to watch something dope, you want to watch something good, just watch Dragon Ball. Watch the original series, because that was when it was fun. Because that you had Bulma, you had Yamcha, you had Puar, Oolong, and it was a fun assorted, variety of characters. Young Krillin, young Goku. It was fun. Alright guys, well that's it for the Dragon Ball GT news. Again, Dragon Ball GT airing on Nicktoons on the US network, January 16th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, so you can catch that on January 16th. So, I mean, if you're a GT fan, then you'll probably be, watching this anyway, if you're a Dragon Ball fan at all. But at the same time, you might want to wait and just kind of wait for maybe the lamer episodes to, kind of finish up. And this is definitely for a younger audience. I think that Dragon Ball Kai and this new GT, this new dub of GT, it's gonna be for a younger audience who are not familiar, who haven't seen the original Dragon Ball Z / GT episodes. So that's it for this episode of the Review Space, and until next time, ciao.